We got the draft recap here, and the first time with a trio. I'm actually really excited about this. I'm Arm Layton, Jack McMullen, Elijah Evans. We've got three on the call up, and it's the perfect time to do it because we had a crazy draft that we need to recap, and it's still going as we're recording this.
It is still going as we're recording this. Elijah, nice to meet you, man. I'm Jack. Pleasure.
Oh, how's it going, Jack? It's good to join you, man.
Yeah, no, I've heard plenty of good things. I've obviously tuned in to the couple of shows that you've done with Arm at this point, and I'm excited to chat with you, and hopefully we can meet in person down the line.
Yeah, someday, right? Not like the
There's
other
going
room
to
or
be a
anything.
portion of the audience right now that actually thinks this is like a real intro here. So, like, that you guys may not know each other
What are you
that well.
talking about? All right, so
I just met
here's
this guy.
here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna kind of guide you guys through, and I know we're gonna do overall like initial takeaways, and then we're also gonna do drafts that you guys liked, and then drafts that you were a little confused by. And I'm not gonna say drafts you didn't like because obviously you got to see the whole day shake out, especially once you get through round 10, because you got to see how the bonus pools will be allocated, yada yada yada. And there have been some really interesting day two picks at this point, but this is a day one episode. You guys cool with that?
Yes,
Let's do
sir.
it. It's funny, honestly, since we just recorded the Just Baseball show draft recap like 30 minutes ago, the Nationals draft already makes even more sense, in the last few minutes. So we'll talk about that, but it's just you're getting more and more answers and validation on draft
Yep.
picks. So like we'll have to do another like full-fledged recap, but
Yeah.
it just shows you how quickly, sometimes players can get bought down that you don't expect.
100%. And I'm sure many of you that are listening to this right now were tuned in at some point to the MLB Draft live stream. If you want 3.5 hours of knee jerk reactions, go watch that archive video. It's on YouTube right
It's
now. And
time-stamped.
it is time stamped. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Was that Peyton? Was that Peyton
It was
doing
No,
that?
that was
Colby.
Colby. Yeah, that was Colby.
Colby was time stamping the whole
At
deal.
like 1 a.m. after we did the stream. So I figured if people would want to go back and at least see our reaction to certain picks, whatever it may be. And King Colby timestamped those bad boys. So we've got a timestamp too. So if you want to go to the Just Baseball live stream there from yesterday, you can skip around and get our reactions to each individual picks,
I
which
didn't
I think is fun.
I didn't know Colby had that in his bag. That's like the
Yeah.
best thing Colby's done in months. Good for him. He's in
He's
the other
cooking.
room right now. He's listening. Okay, so I think how we're gonna do this is initial takeaways, the top five, and then drafts you liked, drafts you didn't like. Is that fair?
Yeah, I like it.
Aram, you first. Initial takeaways. Did you have any sweeping thoughts about the 2025 first day of the MLB draft?
I alluded to it on the JB show, but I think the kind of stiff arm to Scott Boras was the theme at the top in the beginning, and just the changing of the guard. I think with the Nationals, where it's not just new folks in charge, it's going from a Mike Rizzo who I think worked as easily with Scott Boras as really any front office exec that you had. They clearly worked well together, and I think if you still had Rizzo involved here, I don't think Willits would have been the pick. To hey, if you're going to hold really strong on the bonuses for Kate Anderson and Ethan Holiday, your two clients here, we'll pivot and we'll look elsewhere because at the end of the day, we're going to get all the bonuses, but no one's getting $11 million. It's just not happening. So I'm very curious what the price was that Boris was really sticking strong on, but it was enough to switch it up from what I understand and what I've gathered from the situation is it was a very last minute. I mean, they were very excited about Willits. They were on him for a while, but in terms of really making that decision, it wasn't made at 5 o'clock. It wasn't made at 5:30. It was made in the very last minute.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting.
man. I'm with you there. I think that the pivot was quick, right? I think the initial plan probably still was Cade, like we talked about, and then we heard some things. I heard a few things that Ethan Holiday was an option there, but they couldn't figure out the bonus. So then it becomes Willits there, and probably towards the end of right leading up to that pick there. So really interesting. I think my biggest takeaway is just a reminder of how incredibly unpredictable the MLB draft is. You've got sports like the NFL and the NBA where I feel like the first pick we sometimes know, and we often know months ahead of time. The first two picks in this draft, I don't think were mocked. Nobody had that, right? I think it's just a reminder to everyone of
I think
how
Eric
incredibly one person
Longenhagen.
did. Yeah,
I
shout out
think
to
Eric
Longenhagen
Longenhagen.
had
Longenhagen had
Eli
it. So
Willits.
shout out to
He
Eric
had
at
How
he
about
had
Fangraphs.
Steve
Willits.
Longenhagen?
Yeah, he had Willits. Nobody had Bremner at 2, right? So in general, and even
No.
beyond that, right? The top two are an example, but then even guys like Steele Hall at 9, I only saw in one mock, right?
Yeah.
You've got other guys throughout the first round in general where it just is so unpredictable, and that's what makes the MLB draft such a fun time, and that's why we do these streams and have such a cool time just getting after it because you never know what's going to happen.
I will say my
Especially one
internal
like this one.
model had Bremner at 2, but that was really it.
Yeah.
You had your Perry scale was all over it.
Yeah, yeah. I had
Yeah.
Bremner at 2, and then the backup was if you could draft Dante Nori again, he was going to go 2.
I love it. That would have been a good fit.
What you
So
got? Yeah, I thought you were going to say something here.
I was gonna say that the one other like thing that just big takeaway I'd say is just seeing the Pirates play to a strength again. I thought maybe they were pivoting a little bit with the Connor Griffin selection, and it's worked really well for them. But I think that was just an example of hey, we can get a superstar potential player here if the hit tool comes along. But it's right back to playing towards the strength again here when you're not in a position to maybe underslot. I think if you look at the options there, they didn't really I think have too many players in that spot where they were gonna be able to underslot and. You end up again being able to get the top prep arm. The Pirates are just we were talking about on the Just Baseball show. They're just going to stockpile assets, and it's going to be through the pitching side of things. And it's just seeing them kind of play to a strength was a theme for sure.
It's
Yeah.
interesting, man. Like I watched. I got a front row seat to how the Pirates kind of operated throughout the course of the last 3 years, and I feel like it's going to be the same moving forward. Particularly if Ben Cherington is still the GM of the Pittsburgh Pirates moving forward. They know what they're good at. They're going to stick with that strong suit. And I cited this on the Just Baseball show. Like Patrick Riley for Billy Cook can work. Quinn Priester for Nick York can work. Like that was last year's deadline. It was Patrick Riley. Like think about what they moved: Luis Ortiz, Kennedy, Hartle. They got a first baseman. They feel like in Spencer Horwitz. They're just going to stockpile that because they need one first baseman. If you have 15 pitchers, you can move 12 of them or you can move 7 of them, and you can get however many bats you do need in the big league fold. And obviously, you're not going to go get superstars with that. You would need to probably, clump like 4 or 5 arms together in the same deal, but you can get decent big league near everyday players or at least bulk
Yeah.
platoon guys. And that's what the Pirates are going to try to do, it seems.
And the one last thing that I'll build on from just a key takeaway, how important is defensive value and the long-term defensive value of guys who play up the middle and play those premium positions, right? We saw 18 shortstops go in the first round, including the comp picks. It was almost half the picks in the first round yesterday. I mean, that just matters, right? We see it time and time again where teams value someone that maybe they don't stick at shortstop, but they're an athlete enough where they're playing a good shortstop. If it means shifting to center long-term, cool. If they grow out and they shift to third base, great, but it is that defensive value that comes from being a natural shortstop, and especially with the prep guys too. Like you really don't see many prep guys unless they're a stud center fielder or a legit shortstop going high in the draft at this point.
This was kind of the year of the shortstop, huh? In the MLB
Seriously.
draft,
Oh yeah.
especially in the first round. But let's pivot to the top 5 here. And it was a high school shortstop in Eli Willits that went number 1 overall to Washington. And you guys said it's making more and more sense as each pick comes along for Washington. Why they went Willits at 1? Why is that, Arm?
A couple grabs that I think are exciting. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Coy James. That's high school bat shortstop. That we'll see defensively ultimately, but I absolutely love the swing. The bat speed is impressive, and it's a guy that I thought could have been a late first round pick. I thought compensation round area, definitely early second, and probably would have been in that area had the Nationals maybe not struck a deal with him to potentially buy him down. I'd expect that that's a pretty significant overslot there in the 5th round, where I think that the pick value is about 500,000. I wouldn't be shocked if he got well like almost double that. We'll see. But then they also I want to make sure I say his name right because I've watched him throw 100 several times. But Miguel, is it Sime?
I thought it was C-May.
Sime.
Yeah.
That's another guy commands the little scatter shot, but he throws 100 and he's a prep righty. That is just a monster 6'4", 235-pound guy. Those are the 2 picks, right? 4th round, 5th round that are both going to be over slot guys that, I mean, both I think at least had some intrigue to at the very least be 2nd round talents. I think James especially. So you're getting 2 guys there. And then I think they went pretty pretty straightforward with Petrie, but even Landon Harmon's probably slightly over slot. So they may have gone over slot with 3 selections out of the subsequent 4 after Willits. And as we talked about, I thought Willits was the 1B to the 1A that may have been Ethan Holiday. I think they were really close, neck and neck. I didn't see a huge gap between the two very different players. So it's apples to oranges, but I saw them as very similar. So if the Nationals saw it the same way, you took maybe the 1B instead of the 1A, and then you basically got 3 second-round talents with your third and fourth and fifth picks. I think that's a really fortunate and solid outcome.
Elijah, same deal.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you looked at it on day one, and now as we're recording with the fourth and fifth rounds gone, now it makes even more sense, right? I still think it was a good 3 guys to take in the early rounds for the Nats, but now you look at 2 high-end high school prep guys with a lot of upside and intrigue there in the fourth and fifth. It makes a ton of sense, and they might not have planned to save money on Eli Willits, but they definitely are going to save a lot of money there, and it allowed them to get some second round type talents in the fourth and fifth rounds.
Tyler Bremner, 2 to Anaheim. He is an LA Angel, the right-hander from UC Santa Barbara. Elijah, give me the pitch why this pick made a lot of sense, because I know, hey, congratulations on graduating a little bit. Nice to meet you again, by the way, from
Thanks,
Santa
man.
Barbara, what, a month ago or so?
Yeah.
You watched a lot of Tyler Bremner. Tell me why this could make sense, and then I'm going to have Aram be the negative Nancy.
Right. And no, and I get that this was the surprise pick of the draft for sure. But with Bremner, the thing that makes sense from the Angels' perspective is he's, it's a high floor. He has plus command. It's the best changeup in the draft. So you've got a guy who is a high probability big leaguer with an elite changeup. It's a solid fastball that might have ticked down a step in terms of its shape this year, but it's still a well located fastball in the mid 90s. He's grabbed 97, 98. He's still going to be a guy that moves as a starter. He has the command to be a starter. With him, I think the appeal is that he really messed around with the slider a lot this year, kind of bouncing back and forth between a real slider and more of a cutter. And in that kind of archetype, right? If that slider can come along and he can kind of continue to really hone in on that pitch and have a really strong breaking ball to pair with the fastball changeup, and especially the changeup, right? It's hard to find a guy who can throw a changeup to both sides of the plate and do it very effectively, like he does. I've never seen a pitcher in my in-person looks in college that throws a changeup right on right as well as Tyler Bremner does, and that's one thing I think the opposite, the backside righty changeup is disgusting, and there was a reason why righties didn't hit him this year. And if that slider can come along a little bit further, then you got a guy with 3 potentially plus pitches who can move quick and has the command to stick as a starter.
So, Aram, Elijah is betting on a breaking ball coming around for the number 2 overall pick. That's a little gutsy, huh?
Yes, it is for sure.
And it's got a long way to go. And I think that's the challenge. The changeup is phenomenal, and to Elijah's point, the fastball is going to be good enough. But yeah, that slider, I got like an 11% swinging strike rate on it, and
Yeah.
it's just they may feel like they can tinker with some grips, find something, and get it going from there. Maybe a harder cutter that you don't have to really rip as hard might be better for him. But I mean, clearly it's you get a guy that has one of the best individual pitches in the draft, and then a quality fastball to go with it. It's always gonna be a high floor. My only big thing is just Kate Anderson's right there. It's nothing against Bremner. I think he's going to be a good arm. I think you're probably not dreaming on much more than middle rotation. I get that Kate Anderson, you're probably not dreaming of much more than a 2, but there's no if Kate Anderson does this. It's just if Kate Anderson is Kate Anderson, then this is what happens. With Bremner, it's if he can spin that ball a little bit more, if he can regain some of that fastball shape. Those are the aspects that I just don't totally get at the number 2 spot, but we'll see how much the savings are. We'll see what they do with the other picks. So far here, I there's not a pick that screams to me like, oh, that's why they did it. So I'm still kind of waiting on that, but that can still happen in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th round as well, because you can go way over slot on a high school guy, but it is interesting. I feel bad because I think it's a really exciting time for Bremner, and I think fans should be excited about a guy that can fly through the minor leagues for them, and a West Coast kid. But it's hard not to be a little bit jaded if you're an Angels fan watching then Kate Anderson just land right in the Mariners' lap under slot as well at 700,000 under slot.
That has some tie to, I think, one of the biggest stories of MLB All-Star Weekend right now. Like, it's not Tyler Bremner's fault that the Angels did this to him at 2. I'm rooting really hard for Tyler Bremner.
Me too.
It's tough given the situation of the LA Angels and how they try and think out the box, and usually it bites them in the ass.
Well, they
I
took a reliever with the next pick too. Like
Right.
they took
yeah,
Chase Short,
dude.
nasty reliever. It's the Chris Cortez thing, but
Right.
they made Chris Cortez a starter. Jack Ohanowitz, or not Jack Ohanowitz, Ryan Johnson was their close, one of their high leverage relievers at the start of the year. He's now a starter in high A. Looks great there, but uh,
Think
it's
about
just
that.
one of those weird
Think about
situations.
that.
So
Starter in high A. Dude,
We talked
Caden
about this on
Dana,
Heat
I
Sheet.
saw throw 35 pitches at a seventh inning of a 4-run game. Like, that's your
yep,
top pitching prospect. They make no sense right now, and it sucks. But, like, I'm
yep,
rooting hard for Tyler Bremner.
me too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the clowning of the Angels is kind of strays at Bremner during this
Yep.
process, and it shouldn't be viewed as that. It's the same thing. I said it correlates to, I think, one of the biggest stories of All Star Weekend. It's not an indictment on Jacob Mizorowski that he's an all-star right now. It just like, it
Yeah,
sucks
what's
that
he supposed to
that
say?
is the
No.
situation. Right. Like, what's he going to say? Oh, no, I think Christopher Sanchez should be going there instead. I
Yeah,
think Rangers should be going there instead. If you're extended the invitation to go to the All-Star game, you should go to the All-Star game. So it's not like we're saying Jacob Mizorowski's a bad person. It's just like, hey, you are the available person to scapegoat. So the overwhelming majority of baseball media and baseball fans in general are going to scapegoat you. So Bremner is attached to that in the draft.
Yep.
Mizorowski is attached to that in the All Star game. Anderson slam dunk, Holiday slam dunk. Who else in the top 10 to 15 really jumps out to you in terms of being a fascinating pick that you were either in love with or it made you really scratch your head?
I'm just very happy we talked about how just the Rockies can get a holiday
Yeah.
and just give fans something to look forward to. Um, I just kind of looking across there. You said top 10. Can I extend to 11?
I said top 10 to 15. You
Okay,
could
sweet.
absolutely.
Because it's Jamie Arnold. I think there's a lot of weird trends with the stuff this year. Just because the strike throwing was not where you'd expect it to be. The quality of the fastball wasn't there either. So that's why you saw him slip from a guy that when we talked to him and had him on the show, we are like, oh, he's 1-1. But that's how it goes. But the slider is elite. It's a bizarre slot that's going to give him a great chance to get a lot of outs, whether he's getting a ton of whiff or not. And if it all does come together, this guy can be a stud because it's unique, because he's got all these different pitches moving in different directions, and he lands with a team and an organization that sorely needs a player like him. I mean, Gage Jump was a wonderful addition to the fold last year, and not in the first round, but to be able to get a Jamie Arnold caliber pitcher, if you're the Athletics, I think you have to be thrilled. That's the landing spot that I think they probably weren't thinking he would land there. I think a lot of people were thinking the Blue Jays range might have been the floor, maybe even the White Sox. So I thought that was maybe the absolute bottom would have been right there at 11, and it works out for the A's.
A's are
Yeah.
starting to look real, man. I think about the lefty lab that they're creating, and we could be looking at the end of next year, the beginning of 2027, at JP Sears leading that rotation. And then you've got guys like Jump and Arnold in that rotation as well. I
Yep.
understand they paid Severino. Seems like
My guy
Sevy.
Perkins is up there shoving in the pen, and
Yeah,
they could use him in different roles.
dude, they've got other guys, man. Sterner was a non factor
Or
for anybody before this.
Yeah.
And now Sterner looks like,
Lopez.
yeah,
Lopez is
Jacob
nasty.
Lopez.
And decent.
Dude, the A's, like, it's the pitching piece of the puzzle that really needs to come along because Nick Kurtz looks like one of the best first basemen in baseball. That guy
Yeah.
is unbelievable right now. The offense is really coming, you're starting to see it round out and see what the future version of the good A's look like offensively. And now it's just a matter of seeing that in the rotation. And when you close your eyes and see Sears, Jump, and Arnold, things get really exciting there.
Yeah.
So I like that shout. Elijah, was there
Yeah.
another one in that, 6 to
There's
15
there's a
range?
couple for sure. The other pitcher I'd want to mention is Kyson Witherspoon. I think he fits a lot of what the Red Sox are doing right now organizationally, and talent-wise, he easily could have slotted into that 9-10 range, but I think that's ultimately just where the Reds and the White Sox wanted to go prep, and they wanted to go, an upside prep hitter, but Kyson easily could have been the pick there at 9, 10, 11. If Arnold wasn't on the board, I think the A's might have gone there at 11, honestly. So 15 is really good value, and I think it was just a result of all these kind of really exciting prep bats going ahead of him, but I do think Witherspoon is a top 10 type talent in this draft. The fastball slider combination is excellent. I got a soft spot for guys who have the slider and the cutter, the differentiation of it. I just think it's really fun to watch pitchers that have both a more of a real, a deeper slider and then that kind of sharp cutter. His 90-mile-an-hour cutter, I think, is gross, honestly. I think he gets a lot of hype on the slider, but I almost like the cutter better than the slider with him.
Cool.
And I just think it's in the Red Sox lab. It'll just be a really fun pick.
Kyle Teal walked so Braden Montgomery could run, so Kyson Witherspoon could fly. And I love it. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a
That
game
means
of
Kyson Witherspoon will be a White Sox, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. That's okay.
you
You're
go.
fine with that, right? As
I'm good
long
with
as
that.
they don't throw with their left hand, you're perfectly content with having any pitcher from the Red Sox
There we go.
organization.
There we go.
Gotcha. Okay, we're going to play a game of like it or confused by it. So we're going to start with the like it. I'm going to go back and forth with you guys. I want you to name a team that you liked what they did on day one. And that is accounting for rounds 1 through 3. It was the first, 120 picks of the draft? Or
105.
105 picks of the draft. So tell me who you like in terms of how they deployed what they did. And don't say the Baltimore Orioles because they just went kind of chalky college.
Yeah, that's what I said the other day. I thought our dog Kona could have done a pretty good job with the Orioles drafting situation there. Though I did like the Bodine pick. Yeah, I already mentioned the Nationals. Like, I actually, if you're going to underslot at 1, I really do like what they've done from there already. But I look at the D-backs, and I like what they've done here. I mean, Kason Cunningham was a guy I was talking about a good bit, over the last month or two, just in terms of one of my favorite swings in the class. A guy that, even if he was moving off a short, there's an exciting blend of potentially plus hit and average power, great plate discipline, could play a good second base if he moves over there. And then they go with the Patrick Forbes at 29, which getting the live look at him in the College World Series was just so cool, right behind home plate, watching that fastball take off. And I love the way he goes about his business. Just hearing like the pre and post game conversations from him as well. He's going to need to cut down on the fastball reliance and all that good stuff. But I mean, the quality of stuff. I mean, he was ripping. I know we were sending each other some TrackMan data, Jack, of some of the stuff that Patrick Forbes was putting up during the College World Series. It's some crazy stuff. So to have that duo there, where you get arguably one of the best pure high school hitters in the class, and then an electric right-hander that at worst is a leverage arm, I think is a really good spot at pick number 12, or what would have been? It would have been pick number. What was their first pick? The D-backs were pick number 18 and pick number 29. I think it's a pretty good outcome.
Yeah, I love that pick from the D-backs. I think that's a great duo there. They go Brian Curley in the third, which is, a high octane arm out of college, right? But I do think those first 2 picks is really where the D-backs shine. Cunningham was a guy that I was, looking at as a potential underslot for the White Sox at 10. If Carlson hadn't got there, I think Cunningham might have been the pick actually at 10. So getting him at 18 is a really good pick. It's great field to hit. And then you look at Patrick Forbes, and I think that's a guy who you can project as a clear rotation piece for the Diamondbacks going forward. They've got Gallen and Kelly both expiring. Obviously, Eduardo Rodriguez is up there, right? Like beyond, they don't have a ton of young projectable arms in that organization right now, and I think Forbes is one who immediately slots into that kind of 2027 rotation for them.
Cool.
Do I go more loves? Do I go
Yeah,
more
give me
loves?
some more loves.
I'll go
Okay.
love. You got one?
I got 9. Just the Astros going with Xavier Nines. Again, I think he's the most underrated player in this class. I really do. So I think that get there was a really fortunate outcome for them, and I'm excited about the upside of a Nines there. And then they go with the Ethan Frey, who I think has some intrigue as well. I don't think they're going to get too creative here, right? They're probably going to go close to full slot with Nines, and so it's going to be a little bit chalky maybe the rest of the way. But I love that they were able to get Nines at 21. I think people might be looking at the draft tracker and see rank 25 or whatever. I think this is a guy that should have been a top 15 pick pretty comfortably. And given where the Astros are at, immediately just gives them their highest upside prospect, I think, offensively. And now that you have a Cam Smith graduating and all that good stuff. So it may not be the most strategic draft, but it almost makes me like it more. Everyone's trying to reinvent the wheel with their draft process and how they allocate their money. And it's like, let's just go full slot on a guy that I think is really, really, really good. I think that's a great get for them.
Cool. So follow up on the Astros here because that is one of the thinnest farm systems in Major League Baseball. Stop me when you feel like Nyans is, going to slot in here. Bryce Matthews and Jacob Melton, you feel like those two are ahead of Nyans at this
Nope,
point?
he's ahead of both.
He's ahead of both. Is he the top prospect in the organization right now?
immediately. So think
Wow.
about that. You just got the top
Wow.
prospect in the organization with the 21st pick in a okay draft.
I was gonna go down to like Walker Yannick, but I was waiting for you. Okay, cool.
And then you look at Ethan Frey. I mean, dude, his batted ball data is crazy. Yeah, I don't. I know the defensive aspect's going to be a big question, and that's okay. But he had an EV90 of 107 miles per hour with an in zone contact rate of 89%, 88% with a sub 20 chase. Like those are the big three metrics you're looking at that are absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know where he plays, but to grab that guy as well. Those are two really really exciting bats. But yeah, I think Nines is the best prospect in that system. I will consider him for the top 100 list.
Wow. Okay. So, all
Hmm.
right, follow up there. Knee jerk. Who are guys that you're considering for the top 100?
I was talking about this with Tyler actually a little bit as well. I think it's going to be right around 10 ish guys. I think the no brainers are Willits, Anderson, Holiday, Seth Hernandez, Arquette. Then it gets interesting. I think Carlson, you still justify in the back end
Okay.
area. I think then that's where Nyans, and then I got some. It depends on how many guys graduate and everything on the
Yeah.
Witherspoons of the world.
Jamie Arnold.
The the Jamie Arnold. I think Jamie Arnold you can justify in the back end, but it's going to depend on where some like Hunter Barco or
Nope.
Jamie Arnold. Like it's
Oh, wow.
bizarre, but like Barco's shoving in AAA.
Yeah.
It's like the shiny new toy effect. So
Yeah.
that's
That'll
where
have
it
to be a
gets
whole episode
fascinating.
for us.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
But Nyans is like the edge of like I'm positive I'm putting him in there.
Got you. Okay. Elijah, do you have another love?
Yeah, I'll go over to the Royals. And this was, shout out our guy Jared Perkins over at On the Clock, who does great stuff, who's also a Royals fan. And he was fired up on the stream last night after the Royals two picks because they had 23 and 28. And I think they did what the Royals should be doing. I think that they're in a spot right now where getting two incredibly projectable bats in a Sean Gamble and then a Josh Hammond is the right move there. Gamble's just an athlete. I think both these guys are super exciting upside swings, right? There's definitely some approach concerns with both of them. I think there's still some things to figure out there. But Gamble looks like he's going to be, a tools out center field type of guy who can be, a good center fielder potentially with the athleticism to just, really hit and start to hit more as he gets more refined. And then Hammond on the other side is played some shortstop, but seems like he's profiling a third. It sounds like, and has just been, just powerful force, arm strength and range, to be a good third baseman, not just a solid third baseman. The EVs are good. Right side, really a lot of power. Definitely some whiff there. It seems like, but a lot to dream on. So getting two, really projectable high school guys, and then the third pick of theirs in the second round being Michael Lombardi of Tulane, who we've ranked at Just Baseball as one of the underrated, arms to look out for in this draft. We had multiple different articles that mentioned Lombardi as an arm to watch because he didn't throw quite as many innings in college as some of those other college experienced guys, but it seems like a very good, profile to work with and an archetype that just has a well-rounded mix, and someone who I think can move fairly quickly within that Royals system. So I really liked those first three picks, and the Royals have actually made another pick or two. They're definitely going to have to save some money in the later rounds, I think, because I do think both Hammond and Gamble are going to be pretty expensive.
Michael
Well,
Lombardi, also the general manager of North Carolina football, over Bill Belichick. So that's
oh
great.
yeah, what a combination there. But the one last one is just kind of building on what Elijah was talking about with the Witherspoon fit and how much that makes a ton of sense in Boston.
Yeah.
But then also being able to get Anthony Ianson, who I imagine they
Yeah.
probably bought down a little bit, the LSU righty, who I think also has some questions with the fastball, even more so, but can really spin some breaking balls, and I think that's clearly the archetype of arm that the Red Sox like, but then also grabbing like a Marcus Phillips from Tennessee, just a big, hard throwing righty. I liked them playing to that strength, getting those arms, and then even grabbing a toolsy Mason White and just seeing what he can do is a guy that posts plus EVs and is aggressive, but there's some interesting batted ball data there. I liked what I saw from him in Omaha for Arizona as well, despite Arizona not having the best performance. So I thought this was a fun just playing to the strengths approach from the Red Sox, who I think did a good job of adding a ton of arms that fit what they do. I think Christian Fouch as well from Arkansas is another guy that these college arms that they feel like they can play around with and potentially get even more out of.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's pivot to
definitely.
the
I got.
Yeah.
I got one more. I want to give
Okay.
one more quick shout for because I know people are probably sick of hearing how this team drafts, but I do think the Rays got a lot of value, man. I think the Rays did a good job of getting the Rays picks. They took four prep guys in the first three rounds. They had five picks, and four of them were prep. Then they also got a Summerhill, who might not be a favorite profile of ours, but falls to 42nd, which is some pretty solid value for him. But Daniel Pierce, Cooper Fleming, Dean Moss, and Tatum Gray as four high school guys, all really interesting to me. I think Pierce there is fun in the first round, and he's your prize guy, being a potential legit shortstop. But then Dean Moss is he's really interesting, an IMG guy. A lot of upside there, and then Tatum Gray has ridiculous pop, and he's going to be interesting to see what it becomes in the Rays system. But I think if there's an org to develop him in the right direction, it would be the Rays.
So that's how you say that first name, Tayton,
I
T
think it's
A
I
I
think it's
T
Tatum.
N,
I
T
think so.
A I T N, Tayton. I thought it was
I
Titan.
think I could be wrong, but I'm guessing.
Okay, Tayton, Tayton, Eduardo Tayton Gray.
Maybe.
That'd be good. I'm really disappointed that the Love draft process didn't include the Miami Marlins, but you know what? We move on. It's
I
okay.
liked it. It was a short putt and they sunk it. That's like our guy
I like
on
Compton a
Discord,
lot
Sean
too.
Donahue
I like
said.
Compton a lot for Marlins.
Have you
I think
seen
Compton's
what
fun.
Have you seen what the Marlins have done over the last couple of picks too?
Let me
I
dial
think
that
they're
up.
just going with a whole
Max
bunch of Florida.
Williams.
They have three Florida State kids in the
That's
first
also why I don't
rounds.
It's
like it.
all college. They've taken seven college guys now.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
That's
Wow,
crazy.
that is great. I can't tell you the last time they've done that.
So
And they just
But
took their first arm in the sixth round.
did they? Yeah, pitcher from Florida State.
They
So they
went they
went
went
Oregon
six
State.
six hitters.
They went Oregon State, Clemson, Arizona State, Florida State, Virginia, but a Broward kid, and then Florida State.
the Compton fit was great. He hits the living crap out of the
Yeah.
ball, and then you get your at least fourth outfielder in Canarella, and then you get the best college bat in the class. I think the Marlins are definitely on the higher end of. You
Good.
got to feel really good about it. I just it was one of those where it just feels like safe and solid, and I think the Marlins needed that.
Cool. All right, let's go to the confusing element of this draft. Who are some of the classes to this point that you were a little confused or surprised by? Elijah, you first.
We talked Angels a little, so I'll hold off on that one. But I will go to the Cubs here, off the bat here, and I hope nobody takes this as any sort of hating from me. But I think the Cubs' first three picks were not bad picks at all. I like Ethan Conrad. I just was very surprised to see Ethan Conrad go 17. I thought Ethan Conrad was kind of a back of the first guy, left-handed hitter from Wake Forest. And I think that there's some intrigue there for sure, but I do think it was a bit early. Same thing with Kane Kepley. I don't know a ton on Kane Kepley, but someone that I think we had as a little bit lower in terms of where he was at in the rankings in comparison to where he went to the Cubs. It makes a little more sense now because you see them get two high school guys in the fourth and the sixth. But basing it on day one, I did think all three of their picks on day one were marginally a reach. But then here they go with the fourth and sixth, they get two, upside high school swings. So that makes a little more sense. They probably saved a good amount of money on those first few picks and were able to allocate it towards some later high school guys.
Cool. Arm, who you got?
It's funny. Like I found myself during the draft, like just not having a lot of like, man, I really don't like this picks in those types of situations, and I felt myself almost skewing towards like overly positive. And when I'm looking at it now, like even the Jordan Yost pick like really surprised me at first with the Tigers, and I was like, okay, but then you think about what Scott Harris does and how successfully he is drafted, and you think, okay, they're going to get creative. They're going to figure something out, and it's exactly what they did when they go with Michael Oliveto, who I know Tyler really loves in terms of the potential as a left-handed hitting backstop there out of high school in the New York area. So I don't even think I could say like I don't get it there because if they're really high on him, that makes sense then, and you save some money on Yost. I'm interested to see like with the Braves too, but then they end up going with an overslot with a really interesting left-handed arm in the fourth round out of the prep ranks that I'm not doubting the Braves when they go get a prep arm. So there's nothing that really jumps out to me that I don't like or anything like that. I was a little bit intrigued by the Cardinals' approach to go get Liam Doyle, but I don't think you can hate on that either because there's just such a good chance of him being at least a high leverage flame throwing arm, and I imagine he's not going to be an overslot guy there. So I honestly don't have another spot that really jumps to me. I would say the Twins drafting even more boring than usual,
Yeah.
which is saying a lot. Might be the one area.
You're not a
I
Brooks Lee
liked
guy?
like that's fine. And they get Riley quick, and I think that the less boring part was Quentin Young. I think that was the really exciting aspect of it. but he's very, very, very raw. But I even then, okay, Mark Houston, boring pick, but high floor as a great defender at shortstop who can hit, but he's going to be not a lot of power. And then you go with the complete opposite, tooled up shortstop, raw high schooler and Quentin Young. Okay, now I can understand it a little bit more. So there's a few that it's just I'm kind of they go back and forth on, but I don't think anything else that really jumps out to me that I really,
Do
really
you
don't like. I would have liked to see the Orioles get a little bit more creative, but that's easy to say from my chair when I'm not trying to negotiate deals. And so who
Right.
knows what was
do you
going on.
guys were you guys a little bit, not I don't think it's a bad draft at all. Were you a little confused by the Guardians? Because I get taking the value on Jace there at 27. I think that is kind of where you take that swing. But in general, the Guardians go college, college, college off the bat. I think they went pretty much they've gone all college except one pick so far in their first 8 guys, which is kind of untraditional for Cleveland, I think. And Dean Curley, it's kind of a safer floor guy, I think. And then you get some other experienced guys like a Schubert from Oklahoma State. But I just was surprised to see the Guardians not taking quite as many upside swings as I feel like I'm expecting from the Guardians most years.
I'm curious what you think, Jack, because like I felt like they took their biggest upside swing ever with their first round
Right,
pick
of
there
course.
in terms of like ignoring unprecedented whiff in the first round
Yeah.
and then playing it safe to your point a little bit more with some of the other picks. I think Dean Curley's a really well-rounded offensive profile
Yeah.
that I think hedges some of that concern and then kind of went that way the rest of the way. I was a little bit surprised by it, but honestly, if I was at that position where they were at in the draft and I have a chance to get a Laviolette who, yeah, he may not hit enough, man, but like he's going to potentially be able to stick in center. If he can, it's going to be a good corner. And you have a chance here to add a guy that has as much power as anybody in the draft and in an organization that's been trying to trend that way a little bit more after being so much more hit over power through the years. I, I I think it could age poorly, but I respect the shot to take. So this is
Yeah.
one of those years where, other than the Angels, and I can understand the Cubs shout especially too, but then Conrad, they must really like what he's
Yeah.
got going on there offensively, and I can get it when I watch him swing it. There's nothing that screams to me like why would they do that or that's a complete shock. I think the Orioles could have been a little bit more creative, but once again, easy to say from where I'm at.
Yeah.
I don't think anything else. Is there anything that kind of caught you, Jack?
No, I mean, just like tying a bow on the Guardians for me, like it was, and I'm rubbing my hands together like a defibrillator right now. Like for me, that Laviolette pick is like their attempt at doing the defibrillator on their minor league system right now because they just
Yeah.
ran into a 10-game stretch where they put up 15 runs. What have we been saying for the last 7, 8 years on the Cleveland Guardians? It's like, aside from Jose Ramirez, where are they getting popped? The answer was Oscar Gonzalez for 3 months. And then we
Duncancy
pivoted to
Noel for the playoffs.
right, like big Christmas last year, and now we're pivoting to like, oh well, Manzardo for the foreseeable future, but is it happening right now? Not to the level. Carlos Santana was the hope as well. If you manage to fall ass backwards into Laviolette hitting 30 big league homers for you, you take that shot. You absolutely take that shot, especially given the uncertainty in the outfield for them outside of Stephen Kwan.
Yeah.
It's been a turnstile, and they're hoping that it can turn into Quan in left, Laviolette maybe in center, and then DeLauder in right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other interesting part is the offensive barrier. If he's a good corner outfielder, like that's the Wallner side of things, right? Where like the
Sure.
offensive, if he's offensively Wallner with his athleticism, he's a 3+1 player. Of course, he's got to make strides because when you're striking out 26% of the time in college, you got a long ways to go to even strike out 30% of the time in the show.
Right.
But that's what I think they're looking at and saying, hey, I think we can potentially get him right here. And I also will say, playing with a broken hand might have been one of the most badass things, and getting a hit
Oh
with
yeah.
a broken hand is one of the most badass thing, knuckle, whatever it may have been that I've seen. Um, yeah. Other than that, I look at the Phillies with Gage Wood. I think it makes sense. But if some of the medical stuff was true, I would be a little bit curious to why you go Wood maybe over a Forbes there. But I think that might just be a proximity thing. You can maybe move Wood a little bit quicker. That was the only other one that I was like interesting. But otherwise,
Yeah.
it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of logical ones. I think it's hard to judge San Francisco because they only had two picks, but you go with Keelan, who's a a contact guy more. They're probably more of a second baseman. It seems like maybe he gets to short. I know he was kind of blocked at Tennessee, so that made it a little bit tricky there. So maybe he is a shortstop, but a second baseman there in the first round, and then the third round you go with a guy that I don't really know much about, but I
Yeah.
know we had him ranked like 200 on our big board, and he goes 85 to the Giants. So interesting to see what they do with the rest of theirs because they only had two picks there day one, so it's a little hard to gauge that draft so far.
And I think they didn't want to miss,
Yeah,
because of that,
exactly.
right? And I think they
Exactly.
probably really like Keelan. And
Yeah.
because you look at the batted ball data, when you look at the contact rates, the EVs are fine, but yeah, it's hit over power. And then the air pull and just overall, bat spray angles, it's good. It's really, really good. So I could see certain teams, like he could be a guy where I could see you think of him as just a very safe middle to back into the first round pick, and some team goes, the Giants come out and say he was third on our big board. Like it wouldn't shock me. Probably not three, but you know what I'm saying. Like that this is a guy that I think offensively is so sound that some teams could be really, really bullish on him. And I could get it, but they may have just said, hey, let's nail this first round pick. Let's at least get a guy that could be a, 2.5 WAR second baseman. And,
Yeah.
we'll see what we can do with the rest of the pick
Yeah.
since it's a really tough spot given, as you said, they pick 13 and then not again till 85.
Love it. That's our call up, folks.
Yep. We will
Yeah.
recap the entire draft a little bit more in the coming days. And then we're not too far away from a top 100 update with the draft guys as well. What else do we have schedule wise? I am in disarray for people to look forward to on the call up. I also do want to plug links in the episode description. We are doing a charity auction, canvases that were painted by my wonderful girlfriend Ellie. She's really, really good. I'm not saying that because she's my girlfriend. You can look at them. One of them is signed by Max Clark. The other is signed by Kyle Tucker. The other signed by Walker Bueller.
Wait,
We're
Ellie,
working on
wait real
getting the
quick.
Corbin Carroll one signed. But these are all going to either the charity of their choice or Joe DiMaggio's Children's Hospital. They're super, super cool. And the link to be able to bid on those are in the episode description. Would love for you to check it out and support the cause. If you want to see pictures, of course, before you go out and bid, you can look at our socials, but you can also see the pictures when you click on the link to go to our shop there.
Yeah, we got a ton of stuff coming up. We got some Derby content we'll be doing. We're doing a card break tomorrow, so make sure to check out during the All-Star game. We're going to
Uh,
be running a card break with Aram. He's going to be pulling some hopefully some bangers. We're due for a
Bowman
nice
through the
case, Aram.
years. It's Discord only, but you can come and watch with us or join the Discord and jump into the break. I think we got a few more spots.
Yeah.
It's Bowman through the years, so it's gonna be pretty fun.
Yeah, make sure to keep up with us. We'll have a ton of stuff. This is when it gets really fun here because we got the draft to recap, and then once we start doing top 100, then we're 2 weeks out from the deadline, fellas, and then we get to talk about prospects getting traded and moved. And I don't know who's going to be the top names, but there obviously, like every year, will be some huge names that get moved, and then we'll have to break it all down.
Easy.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We will talk prospects with you throughout the week, and we'll have a lot more stuff coming out across the board. Keep up with the socials. Look forward to talking with you in the next couple days.